I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we are paying tribute to one of the greatest musicians of all time, and that musician is drummer Tony Williams. Today on Jazz Talk, we are joined with an all-star cast to share memories, stories about Tony, maybe some things that we've never heard before. And with this all-star cast, we're going to start with our very first speaker, Mr. Thelonious Monk Jr. T.S., take us away, sir.
Hey. First of all, I'd like to say that it's an honor and a pleasure to be part of this discussion of Tony Williams. You know, I have to admit, the first time I heard Tony Williams, I didn't really understand what he was doing because what he was doing seemed to be so far outside of the box. His ability to editorialize the rhythm. I mean, people talk about fusion and polyrhythms and modulating the metrics and all of that kind of thing. But that's not what I was, that's not what I heard. What I heard was a young man who had the ability to actually reinterpret rhythms, you know, and to anticipate what was being played by the musicians around him. I don't think Tony often gets credit for he had what I called elephant ears. He was really, really listening to what was going on within the rhythm section. And I mean, you know, when I first saw him, I had the privilege of seeing Miles at the Village Vanguard often. And because Thelonious played there often, I was good friends with Max Gordon, who owned the Village Vanguard. And so I would get to sit in the back because the Vanguard is kind of shaped like a V. And there's a seat right in the corner in the back. And if you could sit in that seat, whoever was playing the drums, you got a bird's eye view. And when I got the chance to actually sit in that seat and watch Tony Williams, I realized that, you know, Tony, he studied with Alan Dawson, but he also studied with Max Roach, who I also studied with. And I realized that Tony, for me, Tony had taken the quickness of the school of drumming that Roy Haynes, you know, Roy Haynes' exactness and Elvin's ability to almost warp the time, and then Max's ability to be melodic. And he combined all three of those things. And when I got to sit behind him, I really, really heard and saw, you know, there's a lot of things that Tony did that were very traditional. Tony Williams played four on the floor, you know, like Art Blakey, you know, and Sid Catlett, and even going all the way back to Chick Webb, you know, and so Tony was as important to modern jazz drumming as anyone, and he's in a direct line, going back, starting with Chick Webb and Sid Catlett and Cozy Cole and Kenny Clark, Art Blakey, Roy Haynes, Elvin Jones, Max Roach, and then you get to Tony Williams, and you could hear the whole history, you know, including the technical prowess of a Buddy Rich. It was all there. Tony Williams was the complete package, and I feel like we got someone cheated because he died so young, and he was exploring. He was exploring. You know, he was right there at the vanguard of fusion. In fact, he was on the first, what we call jazz rock tune, Una Mas. You know, I mean, he was involved in that. You know, what he did with Jack Bruce and John McLaughlin with the fusion was incredible. What he did with Larry Young, you know, everything that Tony did was cutting edge. And I will always miss Tony Williams and will never catch up with him.
Everything was very natural. Like he came in like came out like a natural, very, very natural kind of
Yeah, but
way to play, and so complex that you really had to think about where is one here, what is he doing? You know, yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
And he was playing like it was nothing. You know, it was so natural.
Yeah, his technique was flawless, was incredible. Well, hardly he hardly made it. Like you said, Elvin. To us, Elvin was to us. Elvin was the beginning. And of course, there was Buddy Rich before and Ginny Krupa and all those guys, but that's from another era. Tony crossed over, so he was ahead. And when the fusion movement started, he created a band called Tony Williams and 10 years after. And he joined in with Weather Report and Chick Corea and his band and John McLaughlin and Mahavishnu. Those four bands kind of broke through a barrier because when you wanted to be a little different, the old jazz fans, they didn't take you very easily. Like I know when Chick changed his style, uh, people, some half of the people didn't like it. You know, some musicians like there was a drummer, his name was Horace Arnold. He was supposed to be the drummer with the band, and after this first rehearsal, he quit. He said, "I don't want to play this kind of music. I want to play free." And Chick said, "Well, I want people to get out of my show and be able to whistle a song or hum a melody. And when we play free, how can they remember what we play? You know?" So
Yeah, that's right.
so
That's what it is. That's when I came in.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chick said to me, I was the first in the band. I was the first member of the new band because no other singers accepted Chick's invitation. The Carmen, Ella, and Sarah, and Nancy, they were all settled in their bebop swing style, and they didn't want to make that drastic change to some newcomer, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So Chick asked me if I would mind to come in and check some of his music. And as I learned, the first song he played for it was 500 Miles High. And then came Spain and what games. Like Chick accomplished what his dream was. And he didn't have a drummer. The first flute player, sax player was Hubert Lodge, but there was no money there. Chick didn't have any money. So we kind of played for $50 a week, you know, and rehearsed a whole month, 8 hours a day to make the band sound good, you know.
Yeah, and make it sound good. That's, and so he asked Flora to talk to me and say, and tell me if I could play some rhythms for that kind of music that they were playing then. And
Until he found a drummer. Or he said,
yeah,
"Can I used to play drums until I find a drummer?"
that's right.
I said, "I'm going to ask him." Okay, wait a minute. I talked to Airto, and Airto, "Okay, I'm not doing anything. I'll come in and sit in." As he started to play with Airto, he began to relax and felt better and better. And suddenly he said, "I don't think I need another drummer. Airto, would you play with this band?"
I said, of course, you know, being on the road with Flora, that's the dream. You know?
I distinctly remember at that time, you know, artists like Tony, artists like Chick, artists like Miles were actually called traitors to the music.
Yeah.
That's how much, you know, a certain segment of the jazz audience rejected what they were doing, which, you know, a fundamental principle of jazz is moving forward. It's not to do the same thing forever. It's to try to push the envelope. And that's what Flora and Airto were doing. That's what Chick was doing. That's what Miles was doing. That's what Tony Williams was doing on the drums. He was pushing the envelope. He was doing exactly what the primary mission of a jazz musician is. Move it forward. Keep it moving.
Right.
That's true.
I agree to you. I agree.
Yeah.
See, the first time I played with Tony Williams, there was a band, Stan Getz band.
Yeah.
At Rainbow Room at the Rockefeller Center. With João Gilberto, you know, the singer from Brazil. And there was Stanley Clarke on bass, was Chick Corea, and myself. And then I was supposed to play drums, but then Stan Getz said, no, I want jazz drum. I don't want, I don't want to play any other rhythm, I want to be able to blow it, play. And so I need a jazz drummer. I'll call a jazz drummer. So he called Tony Williams. And so every time that we played a tune with Stan Getz, I didn't play drums. And every time then that we played with João Gilberto, then I would play the drums. Because João Gilberto he was very minimalistic. And he want everybody to play behind him with that strange way that he backed himself up playing the acoustic guitar. So that was the first time that I played with Tony. And then we actually, Stan Getz, he took that same band on the road without João Gilberto. So I was playing percussion then, and Tony was playing drums. And so until like one time we were playing, I think it was Washington, D.C. or Boston, I'm not sure. Because Tony just sat down and played everything. And Stan Getz was looking, all the time he was looking at Tony and, making signals and all, like, hey, too loud. And Tony is just like playing like Tony Williams, and I am playing the percussion. And then there was Chick and Stanley. And then was one night, the club was packed, and all of a sudden, Stan Getz looks back at Tony and said, no, it's too loud. So Tony looked at Stan Getz, and Tony couldn't take it anymore. So he got the sticks and he threw the sticks on top of the snare and left the stage in the middle of the song. Okay.
Ouch.
And everybody was like looking, nobody understood, what is happening here? And then the chick says, "I hear to play the drums. Yeah, and I said, no, I was not gonna play the drums after Tony.
I hear that. I hear that.
Somebody would beat me up or something.
I
So,
don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. Sorry. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
So we
okay,
finished
all
that
right,
song.
all right, all right. Okay, one thing I want to say is, I
And
want to
oh,
mention.
run after
Oh,
20.
all right.
You run after 20 and he's,
What the fuck is this?
and then you put
Listen,
here.
we can make him Tony Williams as a writer, composer, arranger.
Yes.
Yeah, he developed extensively as a composer and arranger. And mid to the latter part of his career.
Right.
In fact, Tony he was pioneering percussion. That is Western percussion that we know in this society. The things that the M-Boom, the group that Max, Western percussion, I mean, marimbas, vibes, timpani, all of that. He was pioneering that. He in his lifetime group, he had Warren Smith, percussion, and I worked with him as percussion. So I think a lot to be said and attention to him as a composer.
Yes.
An arranger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
A good one. A good one.
Excellent.
Is there a book about Tony? And did anybody write a book about Tony?
They were trying to do a documentary on him, but can't move forward because of his wife. So I talked to Cindy Blackman Santana about that. There've been some efforts trying to get some things done on Tony, but it's sort of like on hold right now. But his last recording, Wilderness, I'm sure you guys have heard that. That was beautiful. What he that band that he had together. I think he had Stanley Clarke, Herbie, Pat Metheny, and the late Michael Brecker, with an orchestra. But that really showcased him. His as a composer was wonderful. The direction he was headed. It's very good. Does anyone else want to share, Mr. Gravatt?
I have to leave, but I
Okay.
just want to say that we must not forget that, up until the early 60s, the traditional trap drum set was a 4-piece set. And Tony was the first cat I saw in the jazz world, because the rock cats were kind of doing it, but he expanded the drum set and added a fourth tom-tom, and added a third tom-tom. So now the drum set became 5 pieces. And of course, nowadays, you see guys with 27 tom-toms.
Yeah, but that's all visual, man. That's all visual. The kid, Alphonse Mouzan, had 40 drums on it. Look, you hit one drum at a time.
Yeah.
That's all. This shit's all visual. This is for visual.
Yeah,
Five.
I know what you're saying, Joe. I know what you're saying, because Max told me.
Yeah, you hit one drum at a time, man. That's
Max told me.
that's all.
Wait a minute. How about Billy Cobham? He played two bass drums. He played right and left at the same time together with no hitches. No, I mean, there were drummers that played all the toms and the snare and the
But
hi-hats.
it was a
They had it
powerful.
all hooked up,
was a powerful influence. It impacted the instrument. Now, what you do with all them drums, that's a whole nother discussion.
That's it.
It's visual, man. It's just visual. That's all it is. All that shit is just visual. You had a whole bunch of shit on the stage. Oh, look at all of that. Look, I'm gonna quote one of Tony Williams. This is one of his quotes. I wish I could be anything but a drummer. Now get to that. That's
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
that's deep. That's deep.
Oh,
Right.
boy.
you want to get into,
Yeah, it's a big.
Tony was cool. He was great. He was disturbed. He was disturbed. He was a disturbed individual. He was under psychiatric care in his last days.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Yeah, I know you didn't know that. So anyway, that's we can get into the other things. That's a quote of his. I wish I could be anything but a drummer. Now, y'all, you want to get into that? Tony Williams was disturbed. He was disturbed, but we all disturbed, but he was disturbed because the industry, in fact, I say the group Lifetime, that's the beginning of Fusion. Fusion is a lot of things, but that Lifetime group was a legitimate beginning point for what they call fusion. But the industry took Johnny McLaughlin and pushed him out and abandoned, didn't push Tony. Okay. All right. That affected him for the remainder of his life. He didn't understand. He didn't understand the social political ramifications.
Yeah, well, that was a cultural thing. That was a culture. I mean, the culture of this country has done that on many levels to.
All right. Listen, if I had your email, I'll send you. I got a paper. It's called Enemy Drums. Enemy Drums. The drums are and still are the enemy in the mindset of the Western culture. Enemy drums. See, they banned the drums here. They banned the drums in North America. That's the difference. When you examine it, you have to understand acculturation and syncretism. The syncretism, the syncretic cultures like are Brazil, Cuba, Puerto Rico, Haiti. The acculturated cultures are North America.
Well, the drum instilled fear in Western culture. The drum was the first high-speed communicative device.
Yeah, but
thousands of years before the computer.
Hold it, man. Wait a minute. They banned the drums in North America, and specifically Congo Square. You know what Congo Square is?
Sure.
Yeah, that's where.
I'm agreeing with you. But the reason they banned the drum is because the drum was a communicative device.
Absolutely, it was galvanizing the people. Listen,
right.
It was galvanizing. Congo Square was an open air arena in New Orleans that exists today as a tourist attraction. It was where they dropped off the slaves. The slaves on the weekends could dance or whatever and sing. But they was not just dancing.
Bambula.
Who's that? The voodoo? The Haitian people were coming there.
Jouer Bambula. That's what they would say.
Yeah.
In Congo Square. Jouer Bambula.
Listen.
Wow, very Gravatt.
They were galvanizing the folks. Specifically the Haitians.
Sure, by all means. They had to.
The Haitians who were in the midst of their revolution with the French, which the French could not penetrate the beaches. Okay, so with that galvanizing, the powers banned, they closed Congo Square down and banned drumming. Okay, these are facts, and they banned drumming in Nova. That's a profound difference in this culture and in the cultures of the syncretic cultures of Brazil, etc. So all of that, what does that have to do with that? What it has to do with the direct effect. And Tony Williams was disturbed. He didn't understand. He didn't have the full understanding of why the industry didn't push him. They didn't push him. They didn't push him. Greatest drummers shit, and he played. He was not pushed. They pushed Johnny McLaughlin.
Right.
And that affected him for the remainder of his life.
I can dig it. I can dig it. But
True.
like you're talking to us
Hey,
and Tootie and Alex, and we come from different cultures.
You
Red.
come from syncretic cultures. You come
Yeah,
from
like
the culture.
drums
Yes.
were the way we communicated
Right,
between tribes, you know, like faraway tribes. They will send messages by drums.
right,
Right.
No other way to talk to the other tribes. They were
yeah,
hundreds of miles away. So one drum would speak with another drum, with another drum, with another drum until the message got to the last tribe, you know. And we were raised to learn by the heartbeat that the drums were the most important thing.
yes, yes. And it wasn't so much that the Portuguese and the Spanish, who were leading, and some degree French, they didn't necessarily want y'all playing drums either, but you were able to, that's what candomblé is. Candomblé and Santeria. They were able to disguise and put their
Right.
own saints. That's how you snuck and got the drums in, prevalent.
Right.
To be drummed, because the North America was a straight out banning of the drums, straight out of Congo Square. And then historians say, well, the African people in North America didn't have drums. That's not true. They did have hand drum, goblet drums that were found in places far away as New York. But the British Protestant, the dominant colonial power, what they did was deliberately ban, you could be shot playing a drum in Congo Square. And they closed, that's why they closed Congo Square down, because you could be shot playing a drum.
Mm.
That greatly affected the psycho-spirituality of
Oh my God.
everyone.
Good that I was not there at that time.
What?
It's
What are you
good
saying?
that I was not there at that time.
me
I
neither.
was the first one to get shot.
What?
I would be the first one to get shot.
Well, yeah. Yeah, if you, after 1820, after in Congo Square, see,
Wow.
Congo Square, it was a very important place in New Orleans.
Yeah.
They were galvanizing the people, galvanizing the people to get together. So it got so far out of hand, and vaudon is big in New Orleans today. Okay, so what's all this got to do with Tony Williams? It's a direct effect of Tony Williams. Tony Williams is a product of this society, and he was a great drummer. I find he's a great musician.
Mhm.
And I didn't get to emphasize the fact that he was becoming a great composer and arranger, which he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to play with Tony in the last 7 years of his life as part of his quintet, and then for the last year in a more traditional jazz trio. And what strikes me as really eye-opening is how how Tony was, of course, well anchored in the traditional jazz tradition of drumming,
Yeah.
but also, I don't think we should forget that Tony's mom was from Cabo Verde, from the Cape Verdean Islands.
Yeah.
She was from Rhode Island, which is a place where a lot of Cape Verdeans came to work in the whale industry for a long time now. And he told me that his father, Tillman, used to take him to Portuguese or to Cape Verdean social clubs, and he would play music. As a matter of fact, if you listen to his tune, Sister Cheryl is based on a traditional Cape Verdean beat. And I remember one time I had just Cesaria Evora was just coming out and becoming famous in France, and I bought the record and I let him hear and gave it to him, and he was like, oh, this reminds me of my childhood, to listen to Fado and to listen to all the music influence Portuguese, the Cape Verdean Islands being an island where the first Portuguese explorers from Henry the Navigator came in the 15th century or something, and always a waypoint off the coast of Senegal. So Tony's interest as far as drumming is concerned, I think is multifaceted, just and very wide open. And in those 7 years, we almost all the compositions that we played were Tony's writing, showing counterpoint movements, showing complex harmonic structures, beautiful melodies. So I can only attest to what Joe was saying, that Tony was a total musician. And yes, he was playing, I always say he was playing loud, but he was never noisy. There's a big difference to me. Yeah. And it's like, you don't ask Charlie Parker to play a certain way. If you hire Charlie Parker, you know how he's going to play. And it's the same thing with Tony Williams.
Yeah, all of that, that this thing about being loud and the noise. That he was up. He was on the beat. He was up on top of it. He was on top of the beat. See, he was on pushing. He was on top of the beat all the time. See,
yes, life.
Yeah, it was like that. And so it wasn't. I'll tell you one thing. Now, I don't. He was a great drummer, but he was a musician. But I was talking to Miles, and Miles said that he wanted Tony to play like Elvin Jones. I'm quoting. He wanted Tony to play like Elvin Jones, and I'll say, to me, and we're talking about Tony Williams, but Elvin Jones is the epitome of jazz drumming, what they call swing. He's the absolute epitome. And that's what Miles said. He wanted Tony to play like Elvin Jones. That's why he was up on top of the beat like that.
Well, I heard Tony saying, that for 6 months, every day he was listening to Train live at the Vanguard and realized that, Elvin had covered anything that was covered. And he said, I gotta take the drums to another direction.
Yeah.
And
so it was epitome. That's what, but he did that. And he did that, and he formed that Lifetime group, which is, to me, is like the ground base of fusion, what they call fusion. And he was exploring percussion, total percussion. When he had percussion, he had conga drums, and then Warren Smith playing marimbas and stuff. He was very advanced individual.
Well, I think that was part of the reason that the greater society, or the powers that be in the industry, didn't promote Tony, because the powers that be have always resented the intellectual prowess of particularly African-American jazz musicians in this country. And a lot of what Tony Williams was playing was that you couldn't quantify it the way you could quantify Buddy Rich, the way you could quantify a lot of cats. And so therefore, that becomes scary. That goes back.
Go ahead.
That goes back to what you were talking about, Joe.
The enemy.
The fear of the drum, because they didn't know what the hell he was doing. The musicologists, the jazz musicologists and critics, they couldn't talk about Tony Williams the way they could talk about Buddy Rich. They couldn't talk about Tony Williams the way they could talk about Gene Krupa, and that's always scary because it's the unknown. And if there's anything that humans fear more than anything else, it's the unknown. And Tony spent a lot of time in the unknown. It wasn't unknown to him, but it was unknown to them. And so it was much easier to push a John McLaughlin, John is a great guitarist, but what John was doing, we knew what he was doing. They didn't know what Tony Williams was doing, particularly the fact that, because you remember, Joe, I know you remember when drummers weren't even considered musicians. And here comes this guy playing stuff. We don't know what he's playing. And he's also and he's also an arranger. And he's also, he had all that going on.
Yeah, but that it didn't begin with Tony. Tony's just in a line. He's in a line, a tradition line that goes back to Baby Dodds on up to Cozy Cole,
Sure.
all up there, Kluk.
It was Kluk. Well, that's what I said before you came on. I was talking about goes all the way back to Chick Webb.
Max Roach, Kluk, Max Roach. He's like the dean of the modern era. Roy Haynes coming after that, then Philly, Art Blakey, and Elvin Jones. Then Tony Williams. Elvin Jones, like I said it before, in my opinion, and it's not an opinion, it's a fact. That's what he's the epitome of jazz drums. Then Tony following Elvin. And then the rest of us coming after that. And there's a few other drummers in there that should be like Pete LaRocca. Pete LaRocca combined Latin. He combined Latin with jazz. He's the first to combine Latin with jazz swing. That's why he was important. But Tony was following. He's following in a line.
It's a few unknowns too that you referring to, Joe. I always think about this guy in Philly that with Elvin used to deal with, Edgar Bateman.
Yeah, Edgar was cool. Yeah, Edgar. Yeah.
Some of the stuff that was introduced,
Yeah, well, he's out of Philly. Philly Jones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but
it was Shadow Wilson.
Yeah, it's a bunch of them. That's the thing. Like all you guys have been talking about. The same thing. It's a long line. And these people go through that. You have to go through that, and nobody's an individual. They're garnishing a whole bunch of people who came before, and their spirituality has maintained.
Right. That's right.
I get it. Yeah. This is Doc, by the way. How you been?
I'm cool.
Doc Annie in Baltimore.
Oh yeah.
How you been, man?
I've been all right,
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah.
Considered.
All right.
So, all right.
I'd like to say hello to Mr. Erskine. Good to see you after
Peter, welcome.
many years running into, I think last time I saw you was in the airport, actually, in San Francisco, catching a flight. I was out there with Tony and you were running somewhere else. How are you doing?
Fine, Ira. Good to see you. Good to see all you gentlemen.
Hey, man. How you doing?
And good. And Airto and Flora, great to see you both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maestro,
Nice to see you.
Maestro Gravatt.
That's right.
Maestro Chambers.
Alex.
If I may, because we were talking. Well, of course, we're talking about Tony. John McLaughlin's name came up, but I was trying to find a photo of Tony, and this was one of the only photos I had opportunity to take, and this was on a flight from New York down to Havana, Cuba in 1979.
For the Havana Jam?
Yeah, the Havana Jam thing. And this was, after the rehearsals where the word was so good about what that particular trio was doing and before the debacle.
Trio Doom.
That was the concert. If I may just tell one Tony anecdote.
Please do.
It was always a curious thing when I would see Tony, and I would always, sooner or later, you'd have to say, "Wow, Tony, it's great to see you. You sound wonderful." And I sensed that like the window shades just kind of went down. That he wasn't interested in hearing somebody say that, and I'd it'd feel a little awkward, so I excuse myself. The last time I saw him was at the Catalina Bar and Grill, the old one.
Mm-hmm.
And I went backstage, and I was so excited to see him, and excited that he had been so vocal and public about going back to school, where he was, studying orchestration, studying composition, studying counterpoint. And I thanked him for speaking about it. I think it was in a magazine interview. And we got to talking because he was a big fan of another composer named Max Steiner, who wrote a lot of Hollywood film scores. And so here I am with Tony. We're talking about Max Steiner and Eric Wolfgang Korngold, and music from the golden era of film scoring in the 30s and 40s. So for about 15 minutes, it seemed, we were just having a good old time. Then I said, "Oh, and Tony, of course, by the way, man, you sound great tonight." And I just, nice talking to you. I'll see you. He wasn't interested.
Wow.
But so he, the few times I got to speak with Tony, he was always just such a gracious man, and very humble. And just one other thing, I heard him. He played in trio with Sir Roland Hanna. This was some festival way up, like northern Norway or something, and they had to fly his drums in on like a plane with pontoons or something. They couldn't get him on the train, and Tony played like Tony played, and I thought it was brilliant. I mean, it wasn't someone like piano trio. It was he went full bore, and it was a great lesson there. What a wonderful drummer, wonderful musician.
Wow.
Aaron, Peter.
Man, thanks. It's humbling just to hear that. Man.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about the first time I heard Tony.
Go ahead.
It must have been when Miles was either ill or somehow, it's because Tony and I are about the same age. And I was at the Vanguard, and it was Gary Peacock, Wayne Shorter, and Herbie Hancock. They were playing The Way You Look Tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony, I rushed in. I remember being exhilarated, and I rushed in and got to the back of the club and sat there right beside the drums. And Tony dropped the stick, and I picked it up and gave it to him. And he looked at me like cockeyed. And then the next time I saw him was in Philly, when Richard Davis was playing bass.
Mm-hmm.
And Miles, I caught him on a break, and Miles was talking about he said, only Roy Haynes know how to tune the snare drum. And Tony's just saying, "Yeah, Miles, yeah, Miles, yeah." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I caught him. We would pass by. I was always reminded of, you ever seen the cartoon Roger Ramjet? Tony was Roger Ramjet and I was Lance Crossfire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Understand.
we would cross in the airport and he would say, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, and he said, "I see you got a new set of drums," and I say, and he said, "I see you got a new pair of shoes." I remember when I went up to see him at Club Baron, and Miles was splitting the bill with Lou Donaldson.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony was waiting for McLaughlin to come into the United States then. So it must have been about like 60s, 68, 69, something like that. Mm-hmm. And Miles decided he didn't want to hear anybody that night. So I didn't get a chance to sit in. Tony was always like on point with me, you know. So I felt I was really complimented by his demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's something else, man. I remember once as you know, as a fan, you know, I saw him at a place in Baltimore, west on the Route 40 called Hollywood.
No.
And seeing him there, and that's when the latter part of Lifetime, the last edition, and I wanted to see him. So the first thing he does is when everybody was yelling for David Sanborn. And then we all turned around and says, "You forgot Tony Williams is next." I never forgot that. And he signed my recordings too that I had for him. But I never forgot that, so that was my first time seeing him. And all the other subsequent times, he always was graceful, always nice, into what he was doing. Maybe at Blues Alley, someone says, "Well, it's too loud." And someone else, and then we all said, "It's just right." So that's one of the few stories I had of him, encountering Tony. So that was cool with me. Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Not counting live performances, at least for myself and a lot of people, my generation, we grew up listening to. Well, I grew up listening to all y'all, and we get favorite. Wow, that's my favorite tune. So I have a favorite Tony tune from the records. I was just curious if anyone had another, if they could possibly go, "Oh yeah, this is one of the Tony tracks I really liked."
Well, one I really liked that captured me in this area where I live at. I can remember where I was driving, where the car stopped at the light at Green Spring, Pimlico Road, at Cross Country Boulevard. It's the intersection. It's right outside the city, right? I was going to work, and I had 4 and More on. And I stopped. That's when I had a cassette tape. I taped it, right? And it was 7 Steps to Heaven, the live one. For some reason, I stopped at the light. I stopped, I had to wait. And that came on. And, at the head of it, he's Tony Williams, he's soloing at the introduction. And only thing I could think about was someone performing emergency surgery or whatever they were doing. Whatever the repair they had to do with the person's body, put it in the sutures, cleaning up and backing out of it. And said, "Now we're done." I swear that's the only picture I can get of that introduction. Then they went on to expand the range of the tune itself. That was 7 Steps to Heaven. And I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten. I got to see that guy. And it was just, everything was so subtle. I mean, the implosions of the bass drum, all this other stuff that was going on. And that one piece, it caught me. It took me away from it. It really did. And I can never get that out of my mind. I listened to that a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So that was tactician for me. He was a surgeon.
You just made me think of something. I heard an interview with Pat Metheny, and he was talking about, hearing Tony, and he says it was the 4 More record that changed his life. He says he probably wouldn't have been a jazz musician had he not heard that recording. And he says, "I know Miles, but man, who was that drummer?" And he said that just opened him up. Tony.
I do have a bunch of them.
Yeah, a favorite. But my personal favorite, Peter, would probably be Believe It, the Believe It recording in 1975. That was a special one. Yeah.
Well,
Since I
I
brought
brought
Mr.
up the
Alex.
que-
I'm sorry.
since-
Take it, Peter.
I was going to say since I brought up the question, I'll volunteer mine.
Yeah.
It's Stuff from Miles in the Sky.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's a funny one, but
Yeah.
it's the one it just always puts the biggest smile on my face when I hear it.
It's whimsical too. You know that it's got a thing with it. Yeah. And that paraphernalia, that all that other stuff he was doing with that in that area. I remember that. I remember riding that on a stationary bike at the YMCA, and that came on. I'm serious. I just that the scenes captured me. It fitted anything I was doing at the time. Yeah. So you said Stuff. Oh, now I've got to go back there.
I always thought his conservatism in the on the studio recording of Seven Steps to Heaven was amazing for Tony Williams.
Yeah.
But
I'm telling you, and look, don't ever bring up that 7 Steps to Heaven, the live one. I'm telling you, it's like you've done something to me to change my whole world around. It just took me and switched me on and off. I was just like a light bulb. When I heard that, my mouth was open. I could sense and feel everything I was doing at the stoplight. The stoplight. And I went to work. Look, at that point, I didn't know how I got to work. You know what I mean? But I was happy when I got there. Walked in the office, I was happy. Yeah. I discovered something.
Can I ask a question to Joe Chambers?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. I was listening to this album that Tony had done with Charles Lloyd called "Of Course, Of Course," and put 2 and 2 together. That was recorded probably at one of the CBS studios. So I wanted to ask you, because you recorded a lot at Rudy Van Gelder's, as well as all the other studios in New York. Was there a difference? We've all done recordings in a lot of places, but there was something I think particularly unique about I would imagine about playing at Rudy Van Gelder's compared to some of the studios in Manhattan. Or would you care to comment on that?
Well, Rudy, one thing about Rudy Van Gelder and his studio was that, first of all, he wouldn't allow anybody in the booth. No musicians in the booth. So nobody really knew what he was doing, technically. Mm-hmm. Although I would say, and the recordings that I did, we all did out in the open studio. He had a big open studio. Mm-hmm. No baffles, none of that. And I don't know what kind of mics he was using or how he got the sound that he got. But I would say that Rudy, along with Stanley Cockle over at Columbia, they absolutely knew how to record jazz drums. They got the sound of the jazz drums. Other than that, I can't tell you, because like I said, he didn't allow nobody in the booth.
Is this in the old studio or the newer one?
Al Lyons, you know the way cats do these. Everybody goes in the booth, and no, he didn't allow nobody in the booth, other than Al Lyons and Duke Pearson, who was A&R and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So nobody knows how he did what he did. They got that sound, how he got the sound that he got. So I can't tell you all of the dates I did over there. I still can't tell you what it is.
Well, I realize I equally should ask Airto the differences back then of recording at Rudy's versus some of the places in Manhattan. vibe wise? Or...
Well, the taxi, Creed Taylor sent me a checker, and here we go.
Well, but he's talking about Rudy. Rudy.
I went to the studio and there I was recording with Rudy Van Gelder.
Rudy he was very funny about the microphone. First of all, he used gloves. Nobody could touch the microphone.
Yeah, don't touch the microphone. No.
Right.
Now, you're right. Nobody could go into the booth, but Creed Taylor. Creed would sit next to Rudy. And Creed, from time to time, would put his hand like this and speak with Rudy, but nobody could even see his mouth or understand what he was talking. But to me, Rudy was driving the session, not Creed,
Really?
Creed only got the guys he wanted to be in there, And Creed was a very special guy. To me, he was the jazz producer. He's 97 years old now. He came a long ways, and he was a trumpet player before he became a producer. And he really did a lot for Black music and jazz music. And I feel we all create something, right now, compared to the other producers we've been through on the jazz world.
Yeah, that's true. I feel the same way.
Mhm.
I feel the same way.
Well, Rudy was originally a dentist.
Yeah, well,
He was?
He was a
Yeah, he
dentist.
was.
I recorded 2 albums at Rudy's, and when I was there, he even had tape covering the names of the equipment. So not only could you not get in the booth, but even if you got in the booth, you didn't know what kind of equipment you didn't know whether it was a Sony amplifier or, you didn't know what kind of microphones it was. I mean, Rudy was really a piece of work.
He was.
Yeah.
Welcome, Lenny.
incredible.
How are you, President?
Hey, Lenny.
Lenny.
And TS, I was thinking about something. The 1996, I think it may be Tony's last television appearance when he was with I think Wayne Shorter, Wallace Rooney, and it was 1996 December at the Monk Institute. They performed there. I actually have that on tape, but I think that's his last actual television appearance.
Yeah.
In December of '96. That's a special one. I still have that and look at it from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wonderful evening too with him. And it was so unfortunate that it wasn't that long after that he passed away. That was really a drag. That was a major loss. And personally, I feel that Tony is somewhat underrated. His impact is monumental to the music, but I don't think, as I was saying earlier, because they couldn't demystify what he was doing, he hasn't gotten the true respect from the so-called jazz critics that he should, that his contribution warrants.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. And we should be the ones, we are still alive. And we were there when he was 17. So he started really early, and he was on a major league at 17. It was just like Pelé was at 17, was the top soccer player in Brazil at 17. Those guys, they come from a different planet.
Yeah.
They have knowledge that we never had, because they bring it from different lifetimes.
Yeah, what I wanted to say about Tony is that, I mean, to me, he was like a hero because I could see like how he never stopped to learn, never stopped to stretch. I was fortunate to be part of an evening that he put together. He was commissioned by the city of San Francisco to present a Tony Williams evening at the Hearst Theater. And in the first part of his concert, he was playing with Herbie and the Kronos String Quartet, a piece that he had composed for it. In the second part, we played with the quintet. And in the third part, he was playing in a more of a fusion band with Alphonso Johnson on electric bass. And it just, to me, just in that one evening, that was just like part of what he was able to do, you know. Joe was mentioning the bands that he had, the percussion bands that he had with Warren Smith, and I think Junie Booth was on bass, and yeah, and fortunately there are some of these performances available and visible on YouTube. And just to go back to one of my favorite tunes that actually I only discovered while I was playing with Lenny, it's There Comes a Time. It's a piece in 5, and when you listen to what Tony is doing on it, it's just like incredible. And there are like a few recordings. One of them is like, I think it's like from 1971 with Ted Dunbar on guitar, and Larry Young is playing organ on it. And Ron is playing bass and cello from that record called, I forgot what it is called. And Warren Smith is also playing drums, and Don Elias is playing percussion on it. I mean, it's to me, that's the non plus ultra. Where are you gonna go after, you know, after Train, after Miles from the 60s, you know, where are you gonna go? And Tony was able to go further, and he was just at the vanguard of this movement.
Ego,
yeah,
right?
ego,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, I mean, amazing. And I'm sure, I'm the young guy here, you know, I'm sure Alex and Eric and all of you guys, you know, you can attest to that, you know, what a giant he was, you know. And
So
You
listen,
know, let us not forget that Tony was on Out to Lunch with Eric Dolphy, you know, I mean, which was really, I mean, cutting edge stuff, you know. Tony was a monster. He was a monster.
It's an incredible recording. And also, Point of Departure with Andrew Hill.
If I may chime in just a second, you know, the loss of Tony, I think we all felt like, you know, he was going to be our next Papa Joe. We really lost the conscience for, you know, the next, I hoped 50 years that Tony would be there to guide us.
Yeah, I agree.
His loss was.
All right, guys, listen, I have another interview coming, and I'm late already, so I'm gonna have to leave.
All right.
But
Thank you, Airto, Flora, for joining us.
say hello to everybody else that you're gonna talk to, because you're gonna talk to a lot of people, and they're all great drummers and friends of mine. So I apologize,
All right.
but I gotta go.
Adio.
Thank you, guys.
Nice
Thank you.
to see you.
Take care.
All right.
Yes.
You take care.
I would be really intrigued to hear what you think, Alex, coming from your background, from your Afro-Cuban background, and I know you're responsible for introducing the cajon into flamenco music, and coming for that kind of what is your perspective when you listen to Tony? Because I hear West Africa, I hear Western European percussion, I hear a whole bunch of things. What do you hear when you listen to Tony's music through the years?
Well, first of all, before I answer that, I wanted to say hi to a lot of you are my heroes. Joe Chambers, Eric Gravatt, Airto, Peter Erskine, Lenny White. I listen to all of you. I still do. I still do listen to all of you because, like everybody, like many other players, not from United States, we grew up listening, buying, getting records, later on getting cassettes and then CDs and all of that. And I learned by listening, trying to figure out things. The first time I heard Tony was in 1964 when I was in New York. I was only 18 years old. And they didn't let me in the club because I was a minor. And so I went behind the club and I was able to hear him playing with Miles. And like Flora said before, all of us are, or most of you are extraterrestrials, from another planet. But I met Tony a couple times, and I say like that a couple times because he was very quiet. When I met him at Mannix in 1966. I came from Peru to buy a symbol. I wanted a K symbol, a 22. And when I got to the store, the guy that was selling the symbol at the stores, he said, Elvin just left this symbol because he doesn't play 22, he plays 20, something like that. And I said, would you like to buy it? I said, of course. So I still have that symbol from Elvin. And then Tony walked in. And I said, what the heck? That's Tony Williams. I already knew that we were born the same date, although I'm older than him for 1 year. I'm 77 now. He would have been December 76. But anyhow, and then the second time I met Tony was in Sao Paulo, maybe Rio de Janeiro. He was doing a drum solo concert alone. I mean, inside the concert, I was playing with Ernie Watts, and I don't know who was playing with Michael Brecker. Also was there with his band. So the next morning, in the morning, the day of the concert, I was staying maybe in the 12th floor or something like that. So I took the elevator, and then in the 10th floor, the elevator stopped, and it's Tony coming in the elevator, and he had a cigar, but it wasn't light up because it was maybe inside the elevator, So I just kind of bow. I have really nothing to say because you can tell my English wasn't so, not that I was inhibited or anything like that. It's just, I didn't have anything to say. I just said, hey, how you doing? He just bowed his head like that. He never said anything. So we got down to the lobby, the elevator opened, and Abraham Laboriel, the bass player, was waiting for me to have breakfast, and he went to Tony because we both came out of the elevator. I said, Tony, this is Alex. He was born the same day like you, December 12th, blah, 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 something like that. And we look at each other again, and that was it. I never really talked to him. I never heard his voice or anything like that. But he became my hero. When I was living in San Juan, Puerto Rico, I bought all the recordings that he had in those days. And I didn't have a record player. So every time somebody invited me to their homes, I would take the records to play in their homes. Because I had the records, but I didn't have the record player. And I said, everybody said, this is the music that you listen? I said, yes, I do. This is what I love. And of course I have Elvin, and I have, I have also sing the Bar Electric. our Mr. Eric Gravatt. I still listen to that. I think it's Directions. Directions. Yes,
Mhm.
I listened to the whole album, but then I was so into Tony because everything he played for me on the drums was like a lesson. So I break it down. For example, I'm gonna go to Emergency. Emergency, when he begins Emergency, it's like a tom and bass drum, you know. You know, for me, I just took that part and I spent days and weeks and months just trying to master that bass drum and a tom tom with the, I call it the right side of the
With
body.
the right hand,
The right
right
side
foot.
of the body. My right foot and my
Yeah. All right, yeah, all right. I answered your question. Yeah. He knew the claves.
and then
The claves.
when he's playing like the tune is in four, but he's playing phrases of six. You know, I said, whoa, wait a second. So that's how I study him. I study his phrases. For me, they were like exercise, the musical phrases and everything. That's how I study him, you know. And definitely all the records that you guys mentioned, you know, Miles in the Sky and everything else. Peter Erskine also, when I heard Peter Erskine play with Weather Report Pinocchio, that was one of my favorite rendition of Tony styles of music, you know. And anyhow, all to say that I'm still inspired by all you guys, and Tony was and will be and continue be my hero, because every time I listen to him, it's clear, it's clean, it's musical, it's pure, an incredible discipline. He must have to be able to really play that way, covering everything, covering style, his own creation, his own voice, his own beautiful technique, and musicianship, all of that. Him and Elvin and Roy Haynes, and also Jack DeJohnette, for me too, was there, and everybody else, you know. But I still listen to Eric Gravatt, Peter Erskine, Paul Chambers, Airto Moreira. I still listen to all of you. Thelonious, I'm gonna have to start listening to you now, so I can talk about you too. But really, for me, it's just music. You know, it's been, I would say, an incredible gift. Was able to stay here in this country, still working as a musician, and raise beautiful family. Still searching for something new. And also the reason I search is because I like to share with students, and I like to share what I learned, what I had from my culture. And one of the things that I'm doing lately, talking about Tony again, I'm putting the clave with Tony's phrases. I'm putting phrases like that on the clave with the left foot, and the Tony's phrases, drumming phrases. You know, I know he had a plethora of that, but I just taking one at a time. So that's what I'm trying to do lately, still copying Tony and on all of you. And I appreciate that you gave me the opportunity, Ira, to say something about Tony. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
You know, Preston, I have to leave now, but I just want to say that this discussion of Tony Williams has been wonderful and absolutely enlightening. And I think it's something that we should do more than just this once, because I think everybody has a lot to say about Tony, because enough hasn't been said about Tony. So I really appreciate this. I appreciate the honor to be involved with all these people And, you know, a lot of you people are my heroes too. I've been listening to you all my life. And I just want to thank you, Preston, for putting us all together so that we can discuss Tony. And I got to get out of here because my doctor says I'm supposed to actually be in the bed and let my heart get together. But God bless all of you. And thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming, man.
All right.
Be good.
All right, they love
Love
it.
to Gail.
Thank you.
All
man.
right.
Now,
I'm cutting out too.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chambers.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care.
All right.
Mr. Lenny White, would you like to share something, sir?
Oh.
Yes, sure. I'd love to say something. Tony Williams was responsible for my first 2 record dates. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been recording. I heard 7 Steps to Heaven when I was 17 years old. And what really made it work for me is I found out that the drummer on that record was 17 years old when he recorded it. And that drummer was Tony Williams. Immediately, he became my guy. That was it. My aspiration was to play with Miles Davis like he did when he was 17 years old. And 2 years later, I got that opportunity to do that because I ate, slept, and did nothing but think about that. He had so much information that I had not heard before. I had heard all the drummers that played before him. I heard them in him, but I heard where all music was going, all drumming was going to go in the same guy. Because I had never heard anybody orchestrate the drum kit like that. He played a 5-stroke roll and didn't play all the notes on the snare drum. He played a 5-stroke roll with all of his limbs. I had never heard nothing like that before. And so, you know, he became my guy. I got to know him. I got to play with him. And I have nothing else to say, but he, along with Ron Carter, who I call GB, he's GD. Ron Carter is God bass. Tony is God drums. And that's what and I say that because a gentleman that's here in this situation here, I listened to all the records that he made too. I mean, Joe Chambers, man, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, for real. And I've known him all my life. I mean, and the fact is, these guys were shapers. You know, you listen to their records and what they did, and that shaped what it is that you did. If you wanted to be a drummer, you had all of those things there. The Magnificent Seven. You had the Magnificent Seven. And like, what else can I say? Tony Williams, I still learn from Tony Williams. What I really do believe is that, just for me personally, he's the epitome, and like, so I can listen to him for the rest of my life because there's always, you know, you can play what you play with, and then there's Tony.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. What's up, Eric?
You got it, Lenny. How you doing? It's good to see you again.
It's good to be seen, man. You know. What's up, guys? All you guys, man. It's great to see you, man.
Well, yeah, you see me smiling like a Cheshire cat. I mean, I'm in stellar company. I'm like, you guys made my year.
Hey, I wanted to share a quick story. Alex, you'll get where this is coming from. I ran into Wayne Shorter down in Mexico City. I was just doing this brief tour with Chick, and Wayne was there with Tony. I think it was like some sort of a VSOP band or something. Anyway, I ran into Wayne in the hotel lobby, this big open lobby in this Mexican City hotel, and we're chatting, and then Wayne goes, he said, you know, Tony's going to get married. And I said, wow, really? And he goes, yeah. He said, She's a real tall woman. And then Wayne in the middle of the lobby starts climbing up a ladder. And when he gets to the top, he goes, "I do."
That's Wayne.
Yeah,
That's Wayne for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cold. That's cold. I was there. I was there the night. I was there the night that they met at the Dakota Bar and Grill at Lowell's place in what is it?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
St. Paul. And I can attest that Tony Williams was very much in love, and they were very happy. And that was the last 2 or 3 years of his life. He was at a very good place, and it's just tragic. It was tragic, you know. And Lenny, you were there at the funeral, you know. I mean, it was heartbreaking because I felt like Tony really had come to like a really good place personally, and that he was very happy, you know. So it was very saddening to me, you know. And I only knew him the last 7 years of his life, which I spent playing with him. Although I had seen him when I was 7 years old in Europe. My mom took me to the famous Live in Europe concert, you know, when he was playing with Miles, and it was 17 years old. So Tony was 10 years older than I, and I can only say positive things. He was fiercely loyal. He was the best band leader I've ever had. Many bass players knocked at the door and wanted the very coveted gig that I had with him, and he just like in my presence, even people were trying to get the gig, and he was like, the bass chair is already taken.
Ira, you play well, man. Don't put that aside. The fact that you play well, that's why he had you there. Come on, man. Come on.
I took care of business, but you know,
that's right.
But you know, nevertheless, you know, people were trying to get the gig, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But he was fiercely loyal and very fair as a band leader, and I always had the feeling that he was playing like it was the last time that he ever would play, you know. And his and once we got on the bandstand, he was very smart about that. First of all, he would never have like you know, the only music you hear in the intermission or before the concert was Nat King Cole without drums. So when we came in, it was like a different experience, you know. And he would start with his rudiments, you know. Of course, maybe he wanted to get warmed up, but I tell you, after 3 minutes of, you know, snare work and so on, you're like you've been charmed, like by a snake charmer, you know. And then he would come, like, you know, do a conversation, do the hi-hat, and have a conversation between his left hand and his right foot. And then we go on to this tune called Warriors on 2 and 4, you know, and like the energy, it would be really dramatic. So he really had a good sense of drama, and there was no question, of course, it was his band and the drums were center, and it was all about the drums, you know, like, they were like in the forefront. But, you know, I enjoyed every beat of it. You know?
He was an orchestrator.
Yeah.
He was an orchestrator. He knew.
Very good. Anyone else have anything else to say? I'm enjoying this conversation. This is wonderful. Ira, I did want to ask you something real quick. I noticed most of the stuff, just about all the stuff that I heard from the band was all Tony's tunes. Did you guys write anything ever when you were in that band? Because it was just all his songs.
No, it was his songs. We had a few cover tunes, like maybe Poinciana or Bird Like or Blackbird by the Beatles, or, you know, but most of it was his compositions. Some of it might have been some assignments that he had in his composition lessons, because throughout I played with him, I think he was still it's interesting how you were mentioning Max Reiner and film music, Peter, because Tony was very much interested in that. And when you listen to Wilderness, it's very much along that vein of writing. And I think Stanley orchestrated it, right? So he did not do the orchestration, but he, writing of the themes and the different parts he did. So he was going to that direction, when he changed management at the end, towards the end of the stint that I played with him. They were presenting him as a writer, as a Tony Williams as a multifaceted artist, not just a band leader or a drummer, to validate what Joe was saying, and Joe himself is a great composer and piano player, and I mean you're all aware about that, and a writer. So yeah, I feel just fortunate to have been part of his band, just to have had the opportunity. And it's, it's definitely like the non plus ultra,
And Ira, the most important part of his band.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything else to say? Not, I'll close on out.
That's just good to see everybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, Alex, that you were born on the 19th. I mean, on the 12th, because I'm 7 days after that.
No way.
Wow. Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Alex, you're a day after McCoy.
Wow.
McCoy's the 11th.
So all Sagittarius, huh? Wow.
Right.
Chester Thompson.
That's right.
Chester Thompson is also December 11th. Chester Thompson, the drummer.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's where I saw you the first time with Weather Report with Chester and Alfonso Johnson in Berlin in '76 or something like this.
Wow.
You know that festival where Jaco played with Mangelsdorf and Mouzon, the trio thing there, the trombone player there. That year, I saw you there with Weather Report.
At the Symphonic
Philharmonic.
Philharmonic,
Yeah,
the
12th. A lot of
1975.
people on the 12th. Frank Sinatra.
Sheila E.
Yeah.
With the exception of Lenny, I haven't seen you guys in years because I was busy watching Convicts. And the only reason I saw Lenny was because he came to Minneapolis.
That's right.
My wife and I were able to go out and see him.
That's right.
Yeah, boy, it's good to see you again, man. But I've been missing you ever since Vincent passed.
Yeah. Man. It's great to see you guys, man.
Yes, Lenny.
Everybody.
I'm so happy to meet you, Eric. I've been intrigued about the Weather Report recording you did, the live in Tokyo. Oh my God, that's so much. I mean, talking about Tony, that's so much about in that direction. They're amazing.
I was just trying to hang in there.
Eric, you
and
may
you
know
influenced
this.
so many guys who were playing with the cymbals all the way up, like Tom Campbell. You remember what was it? The Japanese guy, Jun Saito. Anybody know him?
Yeah, of course. I know Jun.
Up there. I got that from Frankie Dunlop.
Yeah.
Frankie.
Hey, Eric.
Okay.
Eric, you may know this, but every time when I got to go to Japan with Weather Report, and sooner or later we'd get to Sapporo. And every time it was like 3 or 4 times Joe would say, "You know where the greatest concert this band ever played was in Sapporo with Eric." Every time he just talked about it. He just and thank you for all the music. Just
Definitely
brilliant.
You're welcome.
All of you.
It's good to see everybody.
Hey guys,
Thank
hang on.
you.
All right.
Hang on, I'm about to close
Okay,
out the show.
everyone
guys.
stay well.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody stay well.
Well, I want to thank everyone for being on Jazz Talk today and sharing memories and stories about Tony Williams. Each and every one of you, thank you so much. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.
Thank you, Preston.